The most dangerous part of this mission didn't happen at night. It happened in broad daylight, when everyone could see us and no one knew what they were looking at. Daylight doesn't hide secrets. It dares you to ignore them. The sun climbed over Cairo like it had no idea what was already in motion. Traffic surged. Vendors shouted. Life went on exactly as it should. That's what made it perfect. I stood across the street from a cafe that looked forgettable in every possible way. Plastic chairs, cheap umbrellas, burnt coffee, the kind of place no one remembers. That's where Mojave's people moved through. Not running, not hiding, blending. That's how professionals operate during the day. They let chaos do the work for them. I didn't look at faces. I watched timing. And the timing was wrong. You noticed it first. You said the movement pattern was too clean, too regular. You were right. At 10:43, the first courier passed. At 11:12, the second. Different men, same spacing. That's not coincidence. That's instruction. By late morning, the landfill looked harmless. No fires, no smoke, just heat rippling off metal and garbage under a merciless sun. That's when I felt it again. The second presence. Different from the night before. Calmer, more disciplined. These men weren't watching Mojave. They were watching everyone else. That's when it hit me. Mojave wasn't the danger. He was the excuse. I shifted position when one of them paused too long and turned his head just slightly in my direction. You don't pause unless you're confirming something. I stepped into a hardware store and stood perfectly still. Let the city swallow me. That's when you said it. They're not intelligence. You were right. They were contractors. And contractors don't gather information. They finish assignments. By noon, the heat was crushing. That's when Mojave finally surfaced. Not openly. He never does. A black sedan rolled to the curb 2 streets over. No plates. Windows darkened just enough to stay legal. One man stepped out. Older, relaxed, unarmed. The kind of man who doesn't need protection because everyone around him already works for him. I watched reflections instead. Windows, chrome, shadows bending where they shouldn't. You saw it too. The sedan wasn't alone. Neither was I. You told me to abort. You were right to say it. That's when the line went dead. No static. No warning. Just silence. And silence, in this line of work, means a decision has already been made. I crossed the street anyway, because once you understand the shape of the trap, the only way out is through. Mojave's man entered a government office, environmental permits. That's when everything snapped into focus. Burn pits, paperwork, daylight legitimacy. They weren't hiding the operation. They were legalizing it. I sent you everything. Names, times, locations. You sent something back that made my stomach drop. Confirmation. Those contractors, they weren't there to watch Mojave. They were there to erase witnesses. That's when the air changed. The moment surveillance turns into selection. Someone had decided I wasn't supposed to leave Egypt. I blended into the crowd, but daylight is unforgiving. At night, fear feels distant. In the sun, it's personal. I caught my reflection in a storefront window. I looked like a man already being written out of the story. When the signal came back, you stayed calm. You didn't rush me. You didn't panic. You said something simple. You're not wrong, and you're not alone. That mattered more than you know. By late afternoon, the fires returned. Daytime burn pits. Bold, intentional. They wanted witnesses. They wanted evidence that told the wrong story. Smoke rose into a blue sky filled with traffic. birds, and people living ordinary lives. That's when I understood the truth. This wasn't about secrecy, it was about plausibility. I left the area before sunset, not because it was safe, but because tomorrow would be worse. Tomorrow, the watchers would move, and when they did, someone would disappear. If you're still listening, it's because you already feel it. This story doesn't slow down from here. In Chapter 3, the Watchers make their move, and I find out exactly who decided I wasn't supposed to survive this mission. Subscribe now, because Chapter 3 isn't just the next part of the story.